Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. This week I had again the privilege of playing a real live game with another human being in person, which is difficult for a lot of you due to the coronavirus lockdown, but in New Zealand we've done really well. There are no cases remaining in New Zealand, so a lot of the restrictions are lifted and we can go and do all the normal things that we want to do. We just can't fly overseas. That's about the only restriction right now. So went around to my buddy's place to play a game of infiNity. It was OSS, the LF sectorial, against a good old vanilla PanO, and we are playing the mission Finish Line, which is actually the next custom mission coming up in my infiNity League Season 2. Originally, we were going to play a bit of a homebrew mission that hadn't been tried before, but the rules weren't quite ready for that, so we'll perhaps do that next time. So just a reminder, Finish Line is, it's actually a really good mission. I think you guys will enjoy it. I really like it. It's a mission where your data tracker must start in the deployment zone. So let's say you're taking the table side over here. You deploy your data tracker somewhere in the deployment zone line. And if at any point in the game you move your data tracker around to the enemy's deployment zone, you get it in there, and the entire base of the model must be completely within the deployment zone for you to get this. You pick up the two objective points. If you get it right to the back line of the table, as in this thing here, you get a further one. But your opponent will get one if they kill your data tracker. And if your opponent ends the game with more army kills than you, they also get two. So you can sort of see the interesting symmetry there, can't you, where if you're getting away with it and getting your data tracker in and out and it's surviving, that's a whopping 3 points difference. But if you get him over there and he just dies and that contributes to a big point swing and your opponent ends up with more stuff, then you haven't really gained anything by moving the data tracker over there. You've really just wasted a lot of orders. So you have to balance it carefully. Also, this objective thing in the middle of the table grants 2 at the end of the game, so it can be better to go second. Having said that, a lot of the other objectives may be a bit more easy to get if you're going first. There are 2 panoplies, one on this building and one inside this building, actually, or actually next to the dumpster in front of it, where if you get more stuff out of the panoplies by the end of the game, you get 1 point compared to your opponent. There's a designated target for you to kill as well. So the great thing about this mission is that there's a variety of things to do. You've got to actually have a balanced list. You've got to have a balanced game plan and strategy and continually be ready to adapt to the actual state of affairs and actually adapt your thinking and your game plan to what's actually happening, and that's what causes this game to result in this mission to result in a lot of really good games of infiNity, and that's what it's all about. I've practiced and play tested this mission a lot. It's been really good. Okay, before we get on to the actual match, I'll just talk to you quickly about the army lists that were played. My opponent is a big fan of Joan of Arc limit insertion lists. Normally he runs a tag with it, but this time he's going with the Knight of Justice and the Aquila Guard. So a couple of big heavies in there, but not tags. In fact, there's the Swiss Guard, Aquila, and Knight, and Joan. So these 4 models comprise most of the points, and then you've got the smaller stuff, Warcore and Helot and Techby, all upgraded to regular orders thanks to Joan of Arc's inspiring leadership. Liang Kai, a new addition to PanO, which he's trying out. Regular Mine Layer, very solid. Crackot Renegade, again, very solid. Good defenders of your deployment zone, whereas the rest of the stuff doesn't do that up close very well. So an interesting experimental list. My one's a bit boring because I've played it a few times before. It is just my Human Resources OSS list. Been a while since I played OSS, so I wanted to crank them out again and just run the list that I enjoy playing the most. A really good, well-rounded list with a very strong Dakini Link team here, with, of course, the Deva and a couple of CSUs. One can join the Link, one can go free range. Unless it dies, you can replace it. So, on to Finish Line. Let's talk about how the game went. So, I managed to win the dice roll for Lieutenant and chose to take the table side. I went for the one that you can see on the left here. Although that may have been a bit of a rash decision. I kind of regretted it later and felt like maybe the other table side would have been better and maybe turn order might have been better. But still, another great thing about this custom mission is that all of the options are very viable, and it depends more on your list and your opponent and you're in the table. Whereas some of the old classic ITS missions are really just, take second turn at all costs or first turn at all costs. This is my opponent's PanO deployment zone, so that's where he'll be deploying in. He has constructed these buildings himself. Like, this is completely custom. It wasn't bought somewhere. You can lift off the roofs, and we'll see inside them during the game. This is my deployment zone. I'll be putting the Dakini Link team in this grey building here with the proxies mostly on these towers over here, and the flash pulse bots scattered around. Dazyu will be inside the grey building a bit further up as well, hidden deployment. There's my opponent's designated target, so that is in this blue building here you see in the distance. That's the inner side of it. Normally you can't put your data trackers in or on, you can't put your designated targets and HVTs in or on terrain, but we made an exception for this table because so much of the surface area is actually buildings, so we allowed HVTs to be on the ground floor of buildings. Okay, so here's his setup on this side. It's taking first turn. Crackot Renegade, single SMG there. You've got the 3 different Helots. I can't remember which one is the real Helot. I think it was actually this one. He's got a walker further back here. There's a closer look at where the Krakot and the walker are relative to this designated target, which is in the building, as you can see in the shadows there. Again, I'm using my new Canon camera for these photographs, and I've put all of the photos through Lightroom, so I've just messed around with the exposure and the contrast and the tinting and stuff a little bit, just since I like my photography to look a bit more surreal when I'm taking photos of a sci-fi game. Jonavak is here. He's got his Swiss Guard in the gap here, able to see a very long fire lane through the middle of the table. Tech B through here, and the irregular over here, and I believe that's his Knight of Justice just in front of those boxes. The Mother Knight. So there it is there. He's using the Knight of the Holy Sepulchre there, and that of course is a mine generated by our mine laying regular. Liang Kai, represented by this model from some other miniature range, does have 4 deployments, so just prone at the very outskirts of this building. So that building you can see there on the other side of that wall, you can see Liang Kai. Hidden deployment photo of my Dazyu. Hidden deployment is there, so it is able to see through the center in case something comes through that way, but also we'll be able to see the Krakot if it comes screaming around the corner. So that's where that is, and you can see my designated target inside this orange building. Link team now. So we have the Combi Daktari watching this flank here. There's a pathway for a single S2 to move down the side of the table. The HMG is really not watching anything. The Diva is prone through there. There's another model in the corner here. CSU here managed to roll up NWI, so that was really cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is where the Link team is currently connected. Sofotec through there with the Palbot attached, or Yudbot, and the Flash Pulse bot, just carefully watching this approach, this little gap here. Don't forget there is a Dazyu able to see through there, as we saw with the photographs earlier on. Netrod's yet to be positioned, but I'll be rolling for them in a second, and you can see the my HVT in the building. So there's the top-down view of the Link team that I just explained. A combi rifle actually a little bit closer to the wall than I thought, able to watch this entrance up the top left here, if I just reposition my cam a little bit. Okay, Shukru Lieutenant prone in this building, pretty safe. So Flash Pulse spot, baggage bot, and there's the other CSU. This one actually has the light shotgun. It's the boarding shotgun CSU that is in the Link team. Netrod 1 lands successfully behind this board. Netrod 2 lands successfully on the roof of that white building. And his reserve trooper is now this Aquila Guard. I noticed that he put his Aquila Guard right out in the open, planning on just barreling down the flank that is near to where my Link team is, where the orange building is, where he'll be able to kill my HVT. So my reserve trooper, being the post-human, I'm directly deploying my heavy rocket launcher opposite the Aquila Guard, who is off in the distance there with his HMG. So if he walks past, I'll get a free heavy rocket launcher shot. He won't have cover. Of course, he'll be at an advantage with BS-15 and 4 shots. But this is a 20-point guy who has armor 5 in cover with 2 wounds. I'm happy to slow him down, and this positioning is great because if he gets a little bit unlucky and the rocket launcher blows him up, then I have a huge advantage in the game. So there's so much to gain, very little to lose. That's always how you should approach these decisions when deploying. This is not actually what it looks like. I'm using this model to proxy. Proxy is a funny word because it actually is a proxy. It is a proxy regular hacker prone in the grey building rooftop next to that net rod. And this is a hidden deployment photo of my sniper who is going to assist the rocket launcher at shooting the Aquila Guard. The Aquila Guard does have MSV3 and will ignore the TO camo. However, this is still a good place to put him because I'm outranging him, so he'll be up against range and cover. I'll be hitting him on a 16. I can put in a stun round to him, preventing his total push around the side of the table into my link team at close range. And he'll be having to fight off the heavy rocket launcher and the sniper, so feeling very good about this opening position. The Deva with Spitfire is chosen as the data pack lieutenant here next to the bedside, and Joan of Arc is going to be the opposing data tracker for PanO. Liang Kai moving forward as the first thing with Impetuous. We also have the Aquila Guard now moving out. And this is the point where I spring the trap and I am targeting him with both the proxy and the other proxy. Oh, actually, no, that's not really legal, is it? Normally you can only fire back with one of them because they're the same proxy. Wow, we actually probably made a serious mistake during that game. It didn't matter because the proxy completely whiffed it anyway. Yeah, now that I recall it, I believe that one of them is allowed to dodge, the other one's allowed to shoot, so this particular strategy wasn't that great. Having said that though, inevitably the Aquila Guard does move out of lighter side of the first two of them, but not this guy, so what actually did happen was still fairly legit. He was able to shoot at one of them, the other one could dodge if it wants to, and then once he's moved out of lighter side of the first one, the second one gets to shoot, but I'd be happy with shooting at them with either one of these, to be honest, so it's still decent. What ends up happening here, though, is that he does manage to beat them off. These guys pass their armor saves, so no damage done to either side. But yeah, do be careful, guys. Don't do what I do. If you've got a group of proxies, only one of them can respond by shooting, because effectively a post-human is like a single trooper that can use one of, but not all of its bodies to react at the same time. So, bit of a derp. There's the Mother Knight, Knight of Justice, moving through up to where Liang Kai is situated. She's going to be walking all the way through the top level of the building, then out the other side to take on not just my net rod here, but my sniper. So that's one way to go. Sorry about the dark and blurry photos, still getting used to my camera settings, but the Spitfire here does manage to destroy the post-human, especially since she has a little bit of a height advantage here, able to just get the silhouette barely taller than where the prone model is, so it won't count with cover. Okay, Aquila Guard has escaped from the rocket launcher, now moving past through the building. It's able to move through to the window and have a go at my designated target here, so that is removed, rendered unconscious by the heavy machine gun. And then as it rounds the corner, he is going after a couple of different models. One of them would be the Flash Pulse bot here, and the other one would be the Dakini with combi rifle. Now this is pretty good because he's just barely able to avoid me having cover, but I got a little bit lucky here with the combi rifle and managed to beat off his attack, and the Flash Pulse bot managed to get through as well, and he eventually runs out of orders here as he gets knocked back. So I was fortunate not to lose an early member of my link team. I do have a Yud bot there to revive him though, so it wasn't the end of the world. But yeah, although my post-humans didn't get lucky against his initial assault, at least my combi rifle has, so I've got to be grateful for the little things. So there you are, the Aquila Guard falls back behind the corner, and we have this link team operational. So he does go into suppression fire with a coordinated order from Joan, and I think a couple of other people go into suppression, including the Knight of Justice on the rooftop. So, this is a point in the game where I had a careful look at the board and I realized he most likely has a Swiss Guard with missile launcher. And the reason for me thinking this is that I can already see Joan of Arc there, and an Aquila Guard HMG, and a Knight of Justice Spitfire. It doesn't really make sense to think that he's got a tag, because there's not really quite enough points left. You can sort of feel it if you played a lot of games of infiNity, as I have, and just looking at the models and how much they cost. Secondly, it would be unlikely or unreasonable to think that he's got a Crocman, because that would leave him with too many points remaining. So the Swiss Guard is clearly what's left on the table, Would it be an HMG, a multi-rifle, or a missile launcher? Well, it's not going to be a multi-rifle because that profile is not very good, and it's not going to be an HMG, in my view, because he's already got an HMG in the Aquila, he's already got Jones multi-rifle, and he's already got a Knight of Justice Spitfire, which means the only logical list-building, element to conclude that with, the last piece of the puzzle, is the Swiss Guard missile launcher. So knowing this, I decided to be very careful with moving my team out. I decided to move them out one at a time, and try not to commit too much this turn. So I'm just poking up a little bit here, getting these guys ready to cross around the corner. The HMG is moving up just slightly, and this one Dakini is coming out as bait. If he does shoot that one Dakini, I can reform the link, get the HMG in there, move the MSV2 Spitfire after him, and try and just pick him apart. But my opponent doesn't reveal the Swiss Guard missile launcher, partly because he can't see me, but partly because he doesn't want to. So I'm getting my HMG up to here now. If he does actually reveal something along this fire lane through here, the HMG is going to be a great spot to attack him. He's got assisted fire, and he's the link leader. Now I'm just carefully moving across the street with one model at a time. I've got 11 orders here, so just taking my time, getting the Dakini over, getting the CSU over. This is the CSU that rolled up NWI, so what we're going to do with it is we're going to go after the Aquila Guard is around the corner. So once everybody's in position and able to support her with the 8-inch reach, she can maintain coherency from this point here. So she spends an order, moves 2 inches to that spot, and then moves 2 inches back, and we take the shot from this corner here where I can deny him cover. Unfortunately, he has got suppression fire, but he's up against -3 for cover, so he'll be hitting him on 12s with 3 dice. I'm hitting him on 18s with 3 dice from the boarding shotgun with armor-piercing rounds. Annoyingly, he does crit me the first interaction, but thanks to NWI, I'm able to continue, and the Aquila Guard eventually is slugged to death with the shotgun rounds, and we can then reposition, everybody pulling back a little bit. And look, I'm okay to just take that model out because it does give me the lead on points, and if we can just wear him down and just slow the game down until the last turn, it'll be a lot easier for me to win because I'll have the points advantage, and I'll be able to go for that middle transmission antenna thing and actually hold that. So that's the overall game plan. Another thing I noticed here is that he's got his what do you call this thing again? Knight of Justice on the roof with a suppression fire. It's basically got an angle around like this. And I had another CSU over in the corner here, right, deployed down here. And the dice roll I got for the metachemistry was the 8-4 speed, or 8-6 speed, which is my favorite. So it actually springs around here. And what we're able to do is move right up to the top of the ladder, but not over the ladder. So the silhouette is around about there. And that forces a change face, and then I can simply move over here. And that allows me to get into position without taking suppression fire hits. So it then pulls around the corner and blasts the light shotgun into the Knight of Justice and Liang Kai here. So this is a pretty cool play because the shotgun up close gets the +6 to hit. However, that Knight of Justice and suppression fire is hitting on 14, so it's no laughing matter. The hope here was to at least do some damage on Liang Kai, if not do some damage to both of them, and if I got even one kill here, I'd be really happy. Liang Kai has NWI, of course, Knight of Justice with 2 wounds. What ends up happening is that I achieved exactly that, wounded both of them, and after several attempts, I did eventually lose the shootout and die. But another great thing about this is that the corpse of the CSU was actually blocking the door, forcing him to have to spend an order to actually clear the corpse out before he can come around. And if he does take me on later on, that 1 wound inflicted per model will make them a lot squishier. With a whole lot left in terms of orders for Group 2, I moved around with my DASU, just finding an opportunity here to move up that ladder there onto this building, all the way around here. You can see the Krakot very distantly, very faintly in the distance there. So the DASU pokes out, goes for the Krakot, shoots it with the combi rifle. I thought this might be another way to bait the Swiss Guard missile launcher out, but he didn't obviously take that, couldn't really see me, and we end the turn there with the post-human with SMG going into suppression fire. And of course, this is the guy who can actually see the Knight of Justice come around the corner. And the great thing here is that if he takes me on, I'm armor 5 in cover with 2 wounds. The SMG's got suppression fire. If he fires a Spitfire at me and gets a little bit unlucky, the AP rounds from the SMG could take away that last wound from him, which would leave me in a fantastic position. Okay, so start of his turn, Liang Kai is actually going to have to use Impetuous to drop down a level to come towards the flashball spot, rather than moving over here and shotgunning me. In fact, we worked out that the closest model technically would be him super jumping right over here and then super jumping towards this post-human. So if he did that, he'd get shot by the suppression fire through here. So that's not really going to work. So he decided not to Impetuous with Liang Kai. But you can see what's about to happen here, can't you? Because this knight is going to want to move around here and take out the post-human. So to do that, first he uses a Spitfire to shoot at the net rod and the CSU, then he goes after me. So that's what he's doing in here, moving into close combat, the shadowy Darth Vader in the doorway kind of look. For some reason doesn't even kill the net rod, but the CSU does go down. Then he's able to poke around the corner and go after the post-human. And this is a point where I do get a little bit lucky, and I do manage to get the kill. Pretty significant, but I've got to remind everybody that for me, I'm hitting on something like 10s for 3 dice, and he's hitting on something like 11s for 4 dice. So to get lucky in this situation, I mean, we've got to look at the odds here, right? There's a fairly decent chance of him losing his Knight of Justice, which I feel like is a bit of a risk. But he did it anyway, paid the price, and the post-human comes out victorious. Joan now moving forward, she's got various coordinated orders to move, so with her data pack, she's going to set up for the final turn where she's going to want to sprint into the end zone, the finish line, so to speak, so she's going into the big white building. Liang Kai going to the objectives here, picks up something not particularly useful, like an adhesive launcher, and he's dripping blood through the hallways of the white building. The Swiss Guard that I had predicted does appear and begins moving around now, and the plan is just to try and set up and go after my Dakini. The Dazu attempts multiple times to dodge out of the way but fails, and we eventually get a situation where the Swiss Guard is able to fire a missile right down the main part of the battlefield at my Dakini, who's in a link team. I could have fired back with the HMG, even though it had assisted fire. I decided to dodge anyway just because I really needed to get out of there. Winning the face-to-face roll and inflicting a wound on the Swiss Guard wouldn't really do much. But if I manage to get lucky and hit the dodge, then I can avoid more missiles. That didn't really eventuate though, and the Swiss Guard obviously looses his deadly cargo of missiles and does blow up my Dakini. In fact, clips another Dakini and kills that as well. Jones using his coordinated orders to pull herself into the building now. And there you can see my Dakini blowing up in a cloud of orange fireballs. So there you go, missile successful. Joan now moving to the building and advancing quite close to the middle of the table at this point, and just moves through next to this wall here, which is quite close to my side of the table. Let's talk about this. Let me see if I can find a bigger image. Let's just use this one here. So during the turn, what Joan's done is she's moved from this truck through to this spot here, and then she ends the turn there, next to that wall. My deployment zone is over here. The Knight of Justice is dead. Liang Kai is on the second floor. He's probably somewhere around here. I realized that in my next turn, if I shot Joan and killed her, he'd be in Lost Lieutenant for the final turn of the game. I would have killed his data tracker. He'd have no ability to get to my finish line area or secure the central objective, and I'd be way ahead on points. So if I send someone to kill Joan, it's basically an automatic win. And there's a post-human right there with SMG. If he just moves right through here and comes to this exact spot there, he's going to shoot at Joan, deny her cover, and he's got 2 wounds and armor 5 just in case she gets lucky. And he's got an SMG, so she's going to be half armor this entire time. She's not even in suppression fire. So I thought my opponent had made a blunder by putting her there. If it had been me, I would have put her in this room or not even entered the building at all. So I spent 3 command tokens, transferred 3 orders from Group 2 to Group 1, replacing one of my destroyed Dakinis, my CSU who died to the Knight of Justice. I think there was something else that went down as well, so we basically topped up Group 1. We've got Strategos level 1, so there's 11 orders going into this guy as he strides over here to take Joan on, and here he is. So as you can see, he's got cover, Joan doesn't have cover. He's Ballistic Skill 13, plus 3 for short range. That's going to be 16s on 3 dice against her shot back on a 15. Now, my opponent wisely goes for the stun round. I believe like he's learned this tactic off me using it so often. For those of you who don't understand why a stun round is so much more valuable than a double action round here, yes, you could kill your opponent with a double action round, but even if you do win the fight and get lucky, it's much more likely that your opponent passes at least one save and continues shooting at you. But if you stun them, there's nothing to prevent that afterwards, and then they're just stuck there for the rest of the turn, meaning that Joan gets a full turn 3 and will win. So stun round is far superior choice to the double action round in this case. Now, I do have to get through 3 wounds though, so he's blazing away with her, shot after shot after shot. I did get 2 wounds off her. She goes into NWI, and then finally she gets the lucky hit and disables him with a stun round, but not before my turn's finished. It leaves me with 4 or 5 orders left. Like I think it was like 5, because it took me only a couple of orders to get over here, and I spent like 3 or 4 shooting her. So she's dripping with blood, but we have the Shooker. So this is the cavalry coming in now. Shooker Consultant with multi-rifle. Walking down here. Let's just double check that he actually did have a multi-rifle. Did I cheat this game? I can't remember. Boarding shotgun probably would have been better. No, I did indeed have the multi-rifle. So he's basically able to come over here and blap her on 15s. She'll be shooting back on 1 dice, needing a 15. He's able to basically poke around to this spot here and get her. So her chances of surviving an 11 order OSS turn here are not good. I've already done 2 wounds to her. She was kind of lucky to actually get the stun on the post-human anyway, although inevitably that would have happened over enough orders. She passed a whole bunch of armor saves during the process as well, so she's just come so close to death. But we move in with the Shooker Consultant to finish the job, and he whiffs it and she wins. So unlucky for me, Shooker Consultant dies, and that's basically game. My opponent put me in a situation where my chances of winning were probably 60 to 70% if I'd made this bold play and I went for it and I failed, which I'm okay with because that's going to come up some of the time. It wasn't like one of these bad beats where your opponent's got a 1% chance and they just pull that out of the bag. No, there was a reasonable chance of this failing, just as there was a very good chance of it succeeding. I do feel like my opponent got outplayed though. He shouldn't have had Joan there. I played cautiously enough to give myself all of the tools, and unfortunately paid the price with the bad luck, but that's okay. After talking about it for a bit, we did decide to play out the last turn just because there was a very small chance of me actually surviving and killing him with the post-human since he's undamaged. I moved out with my Dazyu, and then Liang Kai's coming down the stairs to take him on, so using stealth, he just creeps up behind the guy here, destroys him from the shadows with his explosive blade. Post-human goes down. Joan of Arc is then able to move out here and actually move around to the point where she can touch the back end zone, picking up a total of 3 points, and then hiding, and everybody else just goes on Overwatch duty. So that's basically game. I'm in Lost Lieutenant for the final turn because the Shooker is down. I thought that was a great game. Really enjoyed it. I thought that I played it pretty well. I feel like my list now probably needs a little bit of an evolutionary tweak, but it's still a very strong list. My opponent, I think, ran a pretty strong list as well. I don't know about the Knight of Justice Spitfire. It's something I kind of like for Svelorama, although the missile launcher is even better. But it's not bad. I mean, it's still really solid. And Liang Kai, bit of a mixed bag. I'm not yet sold as to whether I love him or not. In PanO, I don't think I'd run him, but in Svelorama, I think I would give him a few more tries because he offers something that they don't normally get to take. Cool, hope you guys enjoyed this live game with the actual photos of real models. I certainly enjoyed playing it, and we'll have a league announcement for you tomorrow going to round 4 for Finish Line.